Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast, episode number 39. Today we're talking about value and specifically about setting rates, the rates that you charge for your business, based on a conversation that I had with a friend of mine who is thinking about starting a business now that she's seen this phenomenal opportunity in her new market. I'm super excited to share this episode with you, and my goal is to have it in 20 minutes or less. So let's jump in. I spent years building my interior design business, trying to do all the things: the marketing, the networking, the free content, spending thousands of dollars on training and education, only to see minimal growth. After years of frustration, I finally started to ask, what am I missing? I had the systems in place for powerful growth. I had amazing clients. I had determination, drive, and commitment to spare. And yet, I wasn't seeing the success I desired. What if business is not about the doing? What if building a powerful business requires both powerful systems and something else, something deeper? I'm Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a journey to discover that something else. If you are ready to build a powerful business and do it knowing that your success is inevitable, join me as I share both the powerful systems I know work and my lessons and revelations as I discover that something deeper. Welcome, Changemaker, to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. Well, hey there, Changemakers. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to tell you a little secret here. When I am recording, I've changed my setup a little bit so that I actually have a splitter that connects into my computer, which allows me to listen to the audio at the same time as I'm recording it. And you might be thinking, well, Amy, you can hear yourself talk. That doesn't make any sense. But I actually listen to the intro and often the extra as I am recording and then editing the podcast. And this might sound really, whatever, egocentric, but it really fires me up every time that I listen to the intro. And just reminding myself that every time I sit down here that I'm here for a bigger reason. So I trust that it's landing with you. I trust that you guys are doing well. I am super appreciative of you listening and tuning in. And let's get into today. So I have been reading The 4-Hour Workweek from Tim Ferriss, and which is a much longer book than I thought, considering that it's the 4-Hour Workweek, but it's all good. And one of the things that I'm just reading about right now is about distilling your tasks down. So there's been a few things happening in my world lately, which have been all good and wonderful, but have also been stretching my time and my energy a little bit. So it's been interesting reading through the book. And so my goal for this podcast is to keep this episode around 20 minutes. So here we go, guys. All right. 20 minutes. That's our goal. So today's podcast content episodes, notes, I have no notes. I'm rambling for a moment while my coffee settles into my brain. I want to talk about value and specifically about the rates that we charge. So here's how it came up. I got together with a friend of mine who I haven't seen in a long time and recently moved to live near me, which just thrills me. I'm originally from Manitoba. I live in Alberta. And while she doesn't live in my same city, she lives much closer by. So I'm thrilled that she's close by. And because we hadn't seen each other in so long, obviously there was a lot to catch up on. And so she was asking me about this new business and all the things that are going on. And it came up in our conversation that she has identified a potential business opportunity where she now lives. And she says, Amy, I can't believe that nobody's really doing this here. It's super popular where I came from. Like, I think there's an enormous opportunity here. And she said very excitedly, I can the charges the rates that people are charging are crazy. They don't charge nearly that much where I used to live. So I can definitely do it for much less than that. And then I'll have all the people. And it was so interesting because there's many moments. I'm trusting that eventually those moments might fade, or they'll probably just morph into something else. But the moments where I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. People aren't going to want to listen to me. I don't know enough. I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough education, whatever. Fill in the blank with whatever version of, not good enough, not enough that you can think of. I'm sure you have many. And this was a beautiful moment for me to actually to step up and to step into the knowledge and the experience that I have and have a true and honest conversation with her. And so that's that conversation, the content of what we talked about is what I want to talk about today. And so when I talk about value, her thought was, and I totally understand this, and so many new or want to be aspiring entrepreneurs think this way. They see an opportunity to provide, let's call it a service. It happens for products as well, but as you know, my focus is service-based businesses, so we're going to focus on services. So they see an opportunity to provide a service at a lower cost than what is already being offered. And their thought is because they can offer it for a lower cost, they're going to get more customers. And as such, then they'll have a more robust business. There's a catch 22 actually when it comes to the rates that you charge. And this is what I mean. And I honestly don't remember if I've talked about this in a previous podcast episode. I might have. We're going to go with a fresh perspective here today anyway. When you charge too little, you actually devalue the services that you offer. So when you charge less than, say, the average going rate, then when people find you, you're either going to attract the bargain hunters. So I'm talking people who are always just looking for the lowest price and they have no loyalty or sense of relationship with anybody. They just want to go where it's cheapest. The other option is that you're going to have people who might actually really value your services, think that you are offering a lesser quality service in some variety because, they're probably thinking, well, how can it be cheaper for the same thing, right? Then it must be not as good. There must be something missing, or maybe they're new, or maybe they're whatever. Now, when I coach my students, I do talk about how to set the rates for your business. And I touch on that, I believe, in the 10 Steps to Launch download, which you can either get it, I think you go to daretobegin.net/10 steps, or you can get the guided walkthrough by signing up for the Launchpad. So daretobegin.net/the Launchpad, we get some extra mini training and then a guided walkthrough for the 10 Steps to Launch download. I digress. If inside the download, and when I talk about setting rates with my students, I always suggest that they do a bit of research ahead of time because setting your rates is more complicated than just picking a number out of the air or saying, I see others are charging $100 an hour for this. I'm going to charge $70 an hour for this, period. Away we go. There's a few things that come into play when it comes to setting your rates. And one of the biggest reasons to set a lower rate that I would suggest for my students, and not that I ever want to say charge less than you think, but one of the reasons that I would suggest they may charge lower than average is if they are literally brand new. Like they just graduated university and they want, or college or training or whatever it was that they're doing, and they want to gain some experience. Or they're transitioning from a job into this new avenue and they have no clients at all. And so they want to gain a bit of experience. That's the only reason that I would really suggest that someone charges less than the average amount. But if you've already been doing it for a while, or so you have some experience behind you, you have people that you've served, and it doesn't have to be obviously people that you've served in your business. It could be a job, it could be through volunteer work, whatever it is. Maybe you've done it for friends and you have some really successful results. All of your friends are coming to you for the same thing. Then it's super underserving you to charge less than the average rate. So how do you know the average rate? We got to do some research, and it can get tricky. I know I've spoken with some aspiring design business owners where they've said, Amy, I can't find, like, people don't list their rates on their website. So how do I know what they're charging? Can I just call them up and ask? And I have in the past said, so do your research, always do your research. Sometimes you can find it on their website. And if not, send it a soft inquiry. You can email them, you can call them, and you can say, you're a student and you're doing some research in the industry. You can let them know I am, doing some research on potentially hiring the service, and I'm trying to get an understanding of what I should be accounting for my budget or for the cost. There's lots of ways that you can reach out. You don't have to reach out to them and say, hey, by the way, I'm thinking about starting a business doing the exact same thing that you are, and I want to know what you charge so I know where I should be landing. Because that's probably not going to get you the best response that you're looking for. So when you're setting your rates, you need to, like I said, do some research and then understand where you're going to be sitting. And one of the things that I talk about in depth in Lost to Launched Academy and with my coaching students is understanding where you're going to be sitting in your market. And I don't want to get it in too much because, again, our focus here to stay within 20 minutes. And I can ramble, so I'm not going to go in there other than just to say that you need to decide where you want to be in the market. Do you want to be low end, medium, high end? What's your target? And this is why it's really important to know who it is you're serving, as well as the services that you're offering and the rates that you're going to charge. So I want to just remind you when you are, even if you've already set some rates in your business, let's say maybe you've been going at this for a while and you've set some rates. I would be really curious. I would love to hear from you if you've set rates and you specifically set them lower than average for whatever reason. I would love to hear from you what your results have been, because I would love to know that it's different than what I have seen in the past. I would love to know that you have people that are coming to you that are just like the most amazing clients ever, and they love all that you do, and you're making a super good income, and you're gaining time freedom and all the things that you wanted out of your business. Love to hear that example. So please DM me on Instagram at idaretobegin, or send me an email at amy@daretobegin.net. That would be fantastic. I'd love to hear about it. But honestly, part of the reason, I know this is going to sound maybe a bit counterintuitive. Part of the reason that I want to hear about it is because I've never yet seen it happen. Because here's the thing, when you charge too little, first of all, in order to make the same amount of income, this is totally logical, in order to make the same amount of income, you have to work more. So if you're charging $70 an hour and somebody else is charging $100 an hour, you're having to do 30% more than the other person just in order to make the same amount of income. So 30% more actual services. I'm not talking about any of the other work. I'm just talking about the services that you're charging for. The other thing that I've noticed is that when you are charging less than average, you're attracting I'm trying to find a politically correct way to say this, but I don't think there is one. The worst kind of client. You're attracting the bargain hunter. And the thing is, the truth of it is, if the only element that you have to compete on is price, you will lose every time. Because there will either always be someone who will go lower than you, or there will be you're not making any money. So you're either going to be losing out because they're going somewhere else, or you're losing out because you're just putting an enormous amount of effort and time in and you're not making any money, which is ridiculous, right? That's not our goal. Our goal is not to work ourselves silly. So I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that I'm reading The 4-Hour Workweek from Tim Ferriss, and it's coming at a very unique time in my life. There's been, like I said, there's been some changes, and I'm not going to discuss them here. I may or may not bring them up on a future episode, but it has put a time crunch into my day. And one of the beautiful things that I see about this opportunity is that I'm curious to see how I'm going to respond with regards to the activities in my businesses. And, will it actually make me a better entrepreneur to have less time available to focus on the business activities? Now, that might sound silly to you. You might be thinking, well, Amy, wouldn't it be like, don't you ideally want to have 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week or whatever to go to your business? No. Ideally, I've got like 10 hours a week going to my business, or 6 hours a week going to my business. And the rest of the time is for me to do what I will, whether it's research or learning something new or traveling or skiing on the ski hill, whatever it is. That really is my ideal. And my goal is to do that not just for myself, but for my guy as well, right? And so there are some interesting experiences that I'm having right now, which are a little bit stressful. I'll be honest. Right now, there's on the daily, I'm feeling rather stressed and a bit overwhelmed. But on the other hand, I also see this as kind of, a cool experiment to see, can I really produce the same results, or dare I say, even better results with less time? So when you charge less for your services, then you have to work more to make the same amount of money. And unfortunately, and this is something I've seen in every industry I've ever worked in or talked with people about, when you are the bottom of the barrel, people don't respect you or value your work. It's a sad but harsh truth that when you are the cheapest one, they don't respect you. So this is kind of an aside, but when I now have my Subaru WRX. I've talked about it many podcast episodes. But before I had my Subaru, I had a Pontiac Sunfire. And I love my Sunfire. I put many, many thousands of kilometers on my Pontiac Sunfire. But about a year or 18 months or so before I purchased my Subaru, I had a tiny accident. And I mean tiny, like I was going like 2 kilometers an hour. It was a turn. The person in front of me I thought had left. They hadn't. I bumped into their back bumper. But because they were an SUV, their back bumper was higher than mine. This caused the hood of my car to crumple a little. So all good, car's still safe, everything's fine to drive, but it doesn't look as good, right? Because my hood now had a fold in it. And I had a deep emotional attachment to my car. And I knew that like I wouldn't be able to sell this car for very much. And I was so grateful for the opportunities that this car had opened up for me and for all that we'd been through. I've been through some major life events with my car. And so, I didn't want to just sell it to anybody because I knew I could only sell it for a very small amount. I knew that the car wouldn't be valued. It would be some, and this may sound terrible, but some young kid who just needs something cheap that they can drive the crap out of, and they don't care if it falls apart in a year or 2 years because hell, they paid what, $500 for it? Fine. And to me, and this might sound silly, but I didn't want to do that to my car. So I actually found somebody who was heading off to university. It was a niece of a friend of mine, and I sold it to her for like $1. But the point is that if I had sold that to somebody for the price that I thought I could get, then they wouldn't have seen any value in it. The value was, again, purely in the eye of the beholder. To me, the car had immense value, but to somebody else, all they'd see was a car that has several miles on it, some rust, and a crumpled hood. And so, if it gets them another year or two, great, but they're not going to take super good care of it. And that didn't feel like a good stewardship of on my part of my car. So I want you to think about it that way when you are focused on your rates. To think about, if you're charging too little, then you're not going to engage a good stewardship from your clients. They're not going to be building a relationship with you, and they're probably not going to see the value in you. Now, this is not true in all cases. You may find some of those amazing clients, whether they are referred to you, whatever, that are they're so grateful for the services you provide, and they are so grateful that you're not charging too much, but they also know that you're not charging enough. So I want you to just think about those things as you are, getting ready to set the rates in your business, or if you're already setting rates in your business. When someone asks you what you charge, you should feel really good about the amount that you state. It should be a number that feels fantastic, that when you say it costs X amount of dollars per hour or X amount of dollars per whatever the service is, that you feel like, yeah, this is a great number. I feel like I'm giving an enormous amount of value for this number. I feel good about doing the services for this number, meaning that you're not feeling resentful for the amount of work that you are required to do for the amount that you are getting paid. And it should feel good in the sense that you feel confident in setting that rate. And so that's one of the things I talk about with my clients and my students, that it should be a confident rate. You should feel good about it. And then at some point, you're going to want to stretch that rate. And you can have a potential growth rate that you would set maybe 10 or 20% higher, that there will come a day when you'll be like, it's time to charge this rate. All right. Okay, according to my clock, we're at like just past 19 minutes. I promised 20 minutes, which means I'm wrapping this thing up right a la pronto. And I just, again, want to say real quick, thank you for listening. And please connect with me if you have those stories that I suggested. Please connect with me. And yeah, please share out this episode. And I know I say this every time, but if you feel so inclined, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I understand that it helps other people find us. Please share a screenshot of you listening to this episode on Instagram. Be sure to tag me, add it into your stories. That would be fantastic as well. Or just share this episode with a friend and say, hey, I found this podcast and I would love for you to listen. I would just love your help in getting the word out. All right? I appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you a phenomenal week, and high five to both of us for getting this in 20 minutes. Super proud of us. Talk to you soon. Are you tired of figuring it out all on your own? Of sitting in overwhelm, knowing that you're not moving forward, but having no idea where or how to start? Are you ready to learn effective profit-supporting strategies for your business so that you can finally earn the money you desire and step into the freedom that you're working so hard to create? If so, I invite you to join me inside the Launchpad. You'll get instant access to free training designed to meet you where you are right now and propel you forward toward the dream that you hold in your mind. It's time to make a powerful move toward your future. Time to step up and serve the people who desperately need your help. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Today is the day. Join the Launchpad now. Just go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad and sign up. Your success is inevitable. Now, let's launch it.